So if you're study trying to outsource that feeling of, I need someone to make me feel like I'm good enough. I need someone to like me. I need someone to want me. I need to be chosen. Nobody's choosing me. Nobody's picking me. Nobody likes me. Nobody wants me. I'm not good enough. You see the cycle of that? So if you're constantly believing that every time you don't get what you want, you don't get that guy, you don't get that job, you don't get that opportunity, whatever it is you want, and you're not getting it, you have to switch it in your head and tell yourself, there's just something else better for me. Maybe that wasn't right for me. That's just not meant for me right now. Maybe there's a better guy. Oh, well, you got to keep it moving. And so once you get out of that mindset and get out of that spiral and get out of that need for everyone else to pour into you and pour into yourself, you will feel good enough.
Excuse me, can I please talk to you for a minute?
Hey girlfriends, welcome back to the Hey Girlfriend podcast. I'm your host, mindset and intuitive coach, Kindall D. Today's topic is never feeling good enough. So how do you feel good enough? How do you feel worthy? How do you build yourself up so that you can stop feeling like you're never good enough or not good enough? And so I take it that this is coming from a place of, because this was submitted to me. This was submitted about a few weeks ago when I asked for podcast topics. And someone asked, just plainly said, never feeling good enough. And so I'm taking it with me being a relationship blogger, talking about relationships and all that they're talking about never feeling good enough for a relationship. I want to talk about that aspect of it and just overall. Because when you really think about it, we're just going to jump right in. Because when you really think about it, when you say you don't feel good enough, ask yourself, feel good enough for whom? Or feel good enough for what? Because normally, it's a feeling that we're internalizing from maybe not being chosen, someone we love not loving us back, like one-sided relationships, something we want, we're not getting it, or something that we're trying and we failed at it. And so we feel like we're not good enough. We're internalizing that to mean I must just not be good enough. But mindset switch here. What if I said that maybe whatever you're wanting, whoever you're wanting, is really just not good enough for you? It's really not meant for you. And so when you switch that around and you instead don't internalize it as meaning there's something with you, and instead look at it as maybe there's something better. Maybe that's just not for you. But whenever you sit there and you internalize it as that, okay, I'm just not good enough. So yeah, you're going to continue to always never feel good enough. Because I'm going to tell you on a personal tip, like, sure, I've healed from like my toxic relationships and all of that. But with me being like doing this work that I do and doing my podcast, I've been that girl page and coaching, even all of that, I really see it being so much further than what it is now. And sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough for what I do because I'm not where I want to be yet. And so I start having those feelings of doubts, like maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I'm going the wrong direction. Maybe I'm just not good enough, because I start to compare myself. That's also another way for you to constantly be put in a state of feeling like you're not good enough, because you're constantly comparing yourself to everyone else and their path and their journeys and what they have and what you don't have. And so when you do that, you're constantly looking outwards instead of inwards. So what I've practiced and what I've taught myself to do so that I don't feel like I'm not good enough and feel better about myself is that anytime I find myself, even just for a moment, comparing myself or looking at what someone else has, or just feeling like, oh man, I want that, or why can't that be me, or whatever those feelings come up, I snap out of it, I stop, and I start looking over my own life. I start looking at all the little things about me that I like. I start looking at the things that I have accomplished. I start looking at the good things about me. I start looking at what I do like about me, and I start pouring into me. Because yes, I may not have exactly what someone else has. I may not be where I want to be right now, but there's still beauty in where I'm at right now. There's still beauty in what you have right now. And so you're never going to feel good enough if you're always in a state of comparison. You're never going to feel good enough if you're always looking at, the guy you didn't get, or the guy you really like and he didn't like you back, and you're thinking, I must not just be good enough. Well, maybe he's just not good enough for you, or maybe that's just not for you. So you have to switch it like that. But if you're constantly looking at a state of almost like you're victimizing yourself, if you're constantly being in a state of victimization, then you're always going to feel like you're not good enough. And so the thing is, you have to turn that switch off, and you have to start pouring into you. You start to treating yourself like you really give a damn about yourself, basically. And so what also helped me with that is I had to do away with any type of old programming that made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Meaning, like, growing up, I was made fun of my weight. I was made fun of how I looked. And so I had to realize that there was nothing ever really wrong with me. And I started pouring into myself like I would have wished maybe my parents would have, or someone else would have. And so I started giving myself what I wanted others to give me, And so you have to go back and undo all of that. All that old programming, whatever someone made you believe. I want you to take it, process it with your adult self, and then you'll start to build your worth, and you'll start to feel good enough. Stop comparing yourself. You're never going to feel good enough if you're always comparing yourself. Like, if you're always in a state of you're thinking someone's better than you, or you're thinking that girl's better than you, or you think that girl's going to get all the guys and you're not. If you're always doing that, you're always going to feel like you're not good enough. You are more than enough. It's what you have to start believing and telling yourself. Whatever you make yourself believe is whatever it's going to be. So switch that. Start telling yourself, I'm more than enough, but maybe that's just not for me. Maybe there's just someone better for me. Because if it can be true that you think you're not good enough, why can't it be true that maybe that's just not for you? You get what I'm saying? It's like you tell yourself what's true. You tell yourself what you want to think. And if you're telling yourself, oh, I think I'm not good enough, then that's what's going to be. And so instead, you have to switch that. Switch it. Whenever you find yourself getting there, thinking that, switch it. Tell yourself, okay, that guy doesn't like me. It's just someone else that's going to like me. And it can be a lot of guys. I know that gets hard. It can be, I've been there. Like, my personal story, I've been there. There's been some guys that I really like. Didn't just really like me back like that, or didn't treat me right, or didn't act like they wanted me. And I was just like, maybe I'm just not good enough. But that was just a select few of guys. That's not everyone in the world. And so once you start really feeling like you are more than enough, and you start exuding that, others will believe it too. That's where it starts with you. If you don't believe it, if you feel down on yourself, if you feel like you need someone to make you feel like you're good enough, then that's when you're going to constantly be in that state of, I'm not good enough. Because you're constantly looking for someone else, other people in the world, other things in the world. You're trying to outsource that feeling that comes from within. So if you're trying to outsource that feeling of, I need someone to make me feel like I'm good enough. I need someone to like me. I need someone to want me. I need to be chosen. Nobody's choosing me. Nobody's picking me. Nobody likes me. Nobody wants me. I'm not good enough. You see the cycle of that? So if you're constantly believing that every time you don't get what you want, you don't get that guy, you don't get that job, you don't get that opportunity, whatever it is you want, and you're not getting it, you have to switch it in your head and tell yourself, there's just something else better for me. Maybe that wasn't right for me. That's just not meant for me right now. Maybe there's a better guy. Oh, well, you got to keep it moving. And so once you get out of that mindset and get out of that spiral and get out of that need for everyone else to pour into you and pour into yourself, you will feel good enough. And it takes practice, okay? I don't want you to think that one time, or, it's just going to be snap, oh, I got it. But I'm telling you, it is a mindset switch. There's nothing else that can help you to get to that feeling of like, I'm good enough, but switching your mindset to believe in it. Right now, you're believing what someone else has made you believe. Right now, you're believing basically the consequence of not getting what you want or who you want. You're taking that consequence and you're processing it as, I must just not be good enough. And so if you're telling yourself that, you're going to constantly feel like that. If you're constantly trying to outsource what you need to find within, you're never going to feel good enough. No one can ever pour into you and give you what you can give yourself. I know it feels like it, but I promise you, I'm telling you from personal experience. I'm going to tell you from personal experience. Like, yes, I'm married now, but I'm telling you, all of my worth, all of me feeling good enough, all of me feeling good about myself, feeling more than enough, all of that, it really comes from me. It's really pouring from how I feel about myself and how I carry myself, how I live my life, how I continue to strive forward, how I set goals for myself and try to meet those goals. If I don't, I keep going. It's how I'm living my life individually, you know? Having a husband is not something that made me feel more worthy. Like, even with or without, I would still feel worthy. You get what I'm saying? And so once I stopped trying to outsource my worthiness and outsource my confidence and get someone else to like pour into me so that I can finally feel good about myself, like, oh, okay, someone else loves me. Now I can actually feel like I'm good enough because someone else is, believing in that in me. Once I stopped doing that and just slowly start building myself up, that's when basically I would say, I guess the dating changed for me. That's when everything changed for me, because it's like, if it didn't work out with someone, yes, I would be sad and disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. But it would last quickly. I mean, it would end quickly. It would last quickly. It would end quickly. I wouldn't be like wallowing in it, and I wouldn't get into these bouts of self-doubt. And I was slowly coming out of it and realizing that it's just not meant. It's just something better. Like, that is such a powerful place to be in, when you realize that you didn't get that because it just wasn't meant. Like, there was a guy before I met my husband that I liked. It was two guys that I liked. But they just didn't seem to like me back. Now, I could be like, it must mean I'm just not good enough, or I'm not pretty enough, or, I could do that. I could have done that. But what I did instead was say, while that was disappointing, there just wasn't it. They just wasn't for me. So I started really telling myself, like, I got to keep it moving. Like, who's for me? That means I had to go through them. It didn't work out, to get to the next. Because if you stay stuck on that one thing, you're not going to get to the next of where you are getting what you want and you are finding the love that you want. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, rejection is really redirection, and it's not meant to make you not feel like you're good enough. Only if you take it that way. If you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, must mean I'm not good enough. Don't tell yourself that. You're telling yourself a lie, basically. And so once you switch that off and stop telling yourself that, then the feelings of not feeling worthy enough will start to slowly disappear. What I want to end with is, I want to try to give you some steps. I kind of said some steps already earlier in here, but I want to give you some concrete steps and what you can do to feel good enough, because I'm telling you, you are good enough. The reason why you may feel like you're not is because you're comparing yourself to others. You may be comparing yourself to who you used to be or who you want to be, and you feel like you're not there yet. You may be comparing yourself to others that have what you want. Or you may feel like you deserve something right now and you're not getting it, so you must feel like, okay, I'm not good enough because I'm not getting it. So it is a mindset shift, but I want to tell you what to do in that mindset shift. So whenever these feelings come up, because they will, and they come up for me, I'm human, and they come up for me often, I would say. And what I do is, instead of judging myself for feeling that way or judging myself for reacting that way, I process it. I think, okay, so why am I feeling this right now? Why do I think I need to go that way? If it's like maybe something to do with my career, why do I feel like this? Why am I comparing myself? What's going on? What I'm basically saying is that you have to stop in that moment and stop the self-criticism. Stop down on yourself. Be nicer to yourself. And then that will build your worth, because you are worthy just because you're you. But it's you making yourself feel like you're not. And so you're switching it. Switch the mindset. Instead, process it. Why are you feeling this way? And don't judge yourself, because it's okay to feel that way. And so what you do is, after you do that, then you start to switch the mindset. So say, for example, you are after something in your career. For me personally, I would like to have my book be a series. I would like to, I'm just going to say it, famous, but not famous like in a sense of, not famous in a sense of like I'm just famous, everybody knows me. Not in the sense of because that's what my ego wants. I want to be well known and well respected for what I do in my craft. So I'm not there yet, and I might not be there. I may not ever get there. So what do? What I've started doing is that instead of looking outwards for what I want and chasing something, I started working more internally on me. I started more so, and what I mean by that, I started more so working on what I'm good at, remembering what I'm good at, remembering who I am. And no matter what the universe wants to send me, it may not be fame. I may not ever be that. This may be as famous as I get. This may be as known as I get. This may be as respected as I get. And what I have to realize is that, okay, if this, me being me, doing this, if this is what's going to be for me, then it must mean this is it for me. And that's okay. That means I'm still good. I'm still good enough because I'm still proud of what I'm doing. And I don't want something that's not necessarily for me, is how I'm looking at it. Or sometimes there may be a different direction. It may be something different for you. You see what I'm saying? So just like with the guy, it could be the guy, the job, career, whatever it is that you're not getting or you didn't get. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. What if it just means it's not for you and there's something else? So you're switching your mindset off from it like, okay, that didn't work. Like last year, I quit my 9 to 5. And I said that I was going to work solely on my coaching, my podcasting, making money off of my brand and what I do. While I did make some money, and I was enough to like pay like my main bills and whatnot, it just wasn't quite enough. And I've now gotten a new job. I've actually got a job that like a 9 to 5 full-time job that I'm doing along with what I'm this right now. And I kid you not, I kind of beat myself up and I was feeling down and out. I felt like a failure. I felt like it wasn't good enough. I felt like I didn't do a good enough job and that it just wasn't meant. But there's so much power in realizing that maybe that wasn't the right thing. That wasn't the right path. And so what I did was I'm like, okay, let's see what's next. And I'm feeling like now I've just switched my mindset. I'm like, okay, now I got this job. I don't feel so stressed and pressed to make my dreams work, although I am working on it. I felt like such a dire need to have it because I felt like I did need it because I needed the money because I'm like, I need this to work so that I can, this is my job. And I was so stressed. And now the stress is actually lifted because it's like I have another way to make money and I can work on myself slowly, work on my dreams. And if the money comes from that or not, it's okay. It will in the long run. So it's now time for me to focus more inwardly on my goals. And it's just like with yourself. If you're not getting who you want, you're not getting the guy, you're not getting, your dating's not going well for you. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means it's time for you to focus inwardly. It's time for you to focus in on you. It's time for you to build you up. And you may be thinking, but I am built up. Like for some out there that may be like, I've done all that. Keep doing it. You're never going to go wrong doing that. And so all it means is that maybe it's time to redirect your focus on something else. If all you're focusing is on what you're not getting, who you're not getting, the job you're not getting, you're comparing yourself. If you're constantly focusing on that, you're never going to feel like you're good enough. And so instead, I want you to choose to focus in on yourself. Journal what it is you like about yourself, the things you like. Start building yourself up. Start building putting your all into you. Start doing something else. If, say, for instance, you're in a career and you're not getting recognized for what you do, you don't feel worthy there, you don't feel good about yourself there, whatever it is that you do, it can be a job, whatever you're doing, and you don't feel like you're getting what you deserve out of it, change it. Move it around. You have a choice to make. You don't have to stay somewhere where you're feeling like you're not being treated the way you deserve. You have the choice and the option to move it along, to move. I'm telling you, whenever you get that feeling that you don't feel good enough, that means something needs to change. It's either your mindset and how you're thinking, or it's either your environment. So, or you can be both. And so I want you to focus on that. I don't want you to stay stuck in that. Okay? Because yes, sometimes you will have these feelings come up where you don't feel good enough. But I'm telling you, if you process it and you switch your mindset around, you find more gratitude. And let's say if it's people that you're comparing yourself to, find a way to connect. Instead of trying to beat them or compare yourself or judge them or whatever, find a way to connect with them. And instead of you trying to live your life like you think people say you should live it, or you're living according to someone else's values, determine your own values and live your life according to your own values. That's how you feel good enough for you. For example, say if, how people say, you're supposed to have a house. If you get married, get you a house and all it is. Oh, you have to get a house. But home ownership is expensive. It's a lot. It's a big process. If something goes broke, if something breaks in the house, you have to fix it yourself or hopefully have a warranty. It's a lot. And so if you're living your life according to that value of having a home means I made it, you're always going to feel like you're not good enough because you're not getting it. What if you determine your own value for yourself? Like, as long as my finances are straight and this is straight and I'm happy with this, I'm all right. A house can be something that I get down the line. Or maybe I don't want a house. Maybe I want a nice condo. Maybe I want a nice apartment where something breaks, I have someone to come fix it. I'm not going to worry about that. Maybe I'm okay with paying rent. You get what I'm saying? It's like who are they to determine that you are wasting your money paying rent? You determine for yourself, like, okay, I'm comfortable this way because something breaks, it can be fixed. I'm comfortable with my nice apartment. It's nice, you get what I'm saying? So you are determining that. Whenever you are trying to live according to someone else's standards, someone else's values, you're going to constantly not feel like you're good enough as well. And so I want you to take actually daily. Practice this daily. Practice what are your values? What's important to you? Use your own mindset and go with that. Okay? So I'm trying to see. I took a few notes to see if there's anything else that I want to talk about this, because it's really, I don't say cut and dry. It's really what it is. It's just thinking differently and feeling differently about things and changing your mindset about it. Like, I'm very, very heavy on mindset shifts. I do it daily. Like with me and my whole career thing, and it not going how I wanted to last year. I was down and out. I became my own therapist, and I stopped and thought about it for a minute. I'm like, I did try. I am trying. So what if that direction I went in last year just wasn't it? It doesn't mean I wasn't good enough. It means it didn't work because it just wasn't it. It just wasn't the path for me. There may be something else better for me, And so once you switch it, do you know how powerful that is? I guess my worth came back up. I'm like, you know what? It's going to be okay. Like, it's just time to switch it. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep trying. It must mean it's time for me to do something else because I've been procrastinating about these damn books. And I want my books to be a series. But Kindall, you only wrote one book that's part of the series and you're supposed to write 2 more. So it's like, focus on what you originally set out and quit losing focus trying to do everything else but what you said. And so that's with everything. That's with everything. I promise you, you are more than enough. You just have to internalize it yourself. Come back into you. Look for your own values. Stop comparing yourself. Stop judging yourself for comparing yourself or for having feelings. Stop doing that. Look for ways to connect. What I mean by that is that when you compare yourself to someone, instead of feeling like you're not good enough or they're better than you or whatever it is you feel, instead look at ways that you can expand in your own life. Look at ways that they, things that they have, or maybe their personality or however they are, and connect with that. Find a way to get in and connect with that. And then once you do that, you won't feel so bad about yourself like someone has the upper hand on you. You'll feel like, you know what? I'm good on my own, and I can do my own thing and be just as good or better, but that's comparing yourself. So no, don't do that. But I'm saying you have your lane and what you're good at and what you're going to do and your path, and they have theirs. You can't compare it. And so instead you can look for ways that, you can expand. So if you want coaching or anything like that, that is in the link below on my Patreon. It is patreon.com/I've been that girl. And you can also check out my books, everything else on I'veBeenThatGirl.net. Links are in below in the description. Check me out. But that's all I got for this podcast episode, girlfriends. Until the next one, peace out.